From the 17th through to the 19th of February, there's an evening shared with Jasper Carrott and Alistair McGowan taking place at the Grand Theatre. 3 nights of comedy, madness, mayhem and wonder. To tell us just how wonderful it is, I'm joined now by Jasper Carrott himself. Hello, sir.
Hello, Jason. How are you?
I'm good. I hope we find you particularly well and looking forward to these interesting 3 nights with your mate Alistair.
Yes. I've worked with Alistair for many times over many years. And although it's comedy all night, it's 2 very different forms of comedy. Obviously, mine's the stand-up, and Alistair does all the impressions. And it's a great combination. I know the first 2 nights have sold out, I believe, but there are some tickets available for the 3rd night.
Yeah, I know the Monday and Tuesday are showing as limited availability. I think you can hear but not see in a few places. Check out if you want to go on those 2 nights in particular. But yeah, the Wednesday night is looking good. And I mean, I have to admit, I did nip onto the Wikipedia page just to check a couple of things, and I didn't believe that you were 79 for starters. How did that happen? Did that sneak up on you?
I've been dreading the big 8-0, which is March the 14th. So before I get to Wolverhampton, I won't be 80, which is very important.
It's crazy, though. I mean, I still think of you as when I went to see you up in Liverpool about nearly 40 years ago, not being very old at all.
Well, 40 years ago, I was -3. It's age is a funny thing, you know. You never, ever think that you're old. You are, but you never think it. You know, I'm still 27. And I just keep going because I enjoy working so much. I'm very fortunate. I have had a very successful career. I don't need the money, but I do need the adrenaline. And that's what you get at Wolverhampton in spades, believe you me.
It's what you deliver, though, with your comedy style and the quality of performances. I say, having seen you live and having watched you on TV numerous times throughout my life and the amazing shows that you've been part of there, we know we're guaranteed a good night.
Well, that's very kind of you to say so. I mean, I still give every ounce for every show is very important. People have paid a lot of money to see you, you know, and you can't just go out there and hope the evening goes well. You've got to go out and make sure the evening goes well. And obviously, I start touring next Monday. So there's new material going in, but there's some old favourites that people have forgotten. And it's wonderful because my audience is very, let's say, mature. And it's terrific because it's like meeting old friends. And I would get 100% standing ovation every night if 100% of my audience could stand.
But we need them to bring the grandkids with them, though, don't we?
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, what I have to choose theatres carefully because the Grand at Wolverhampton has a big sort of back balcony, and my punters, don't normally buy back balcony tickets because they can't get up there, and if they could get up there, they can't hear, and if they can get up there and hear, they can't see, and then at the end of the show, you've got to get them back down again. So theatres with big back balconies are always difficult to sell. But
I can assure you there's a lift and fantastic sound system. So everybody will be having a great night. It's guaranteed.
Oh, you are kind. I mean, obviously, as I say, the first 2 nights are sold out. And the 3rd one is, there's a few, it's the back balcony again. Oh, it's the bane of my life. But it's just really, looking back on my career, people come up to me a lot and say, "Oh, I love that bit you did, and I love and I used to be there with my parents when you were doing stand-up and all the business." And it's wonderful being part of people's lives, and it's a very privileged position. It really is. And when I go out there, I have the time of my life, and I hope the audience do too.
Yeah, well, I mean, talking today in the office, and I said, "Oh yeah, I'm due to be talking to Jasper later on," and one 20-odd-year-old said, "No, I've no idea who that is." And then we got round to Funky Moped, and they suddenly, "My granddad's played me that," so obviously it's still in living memory. But I mean, you were from a lot of your career whereby you were releasing albums with stuff on it. It wasn't downloads.
No, you see, you can't buy a comedy album these days because albums don't exist. I mean, I sold millions, literally millions of LPs and singles. But of course, you can't buy a comedy album now, which is, because you can't get comedy on Chick Face Talk or whatever they call it. It's so the comedy album has died a death. You can get cassettes. If you're under 50 and you want to know what a cassette is. Gosh, it's a different world out there, Jason. It really is, you know.
It is.
However, Wolverhampton. I've always had a real soft spot for Wolverhampton, because in the early days when I was doing folk clubs, there used to be about 4 or 5 folk clubs. One at Codsall, one at Tetton Hall, all over the place. And I spent half my life in the Black Country working folk clubs, and of course, the great thing about the Black Country is they have a wonderful sense of humour. They really do, which is a bit different from the rest of the country. And you just have to accept my word for it. But I grew up and learnt my trade mainly in the Black Country. I hardly worked Birmingham at all. In the first 5 years of my career, I worked Birmingham maybe 4 or 5 times. But the Black Country, I was forever up there. And so I have a great deal of affection for the people in all the, not just Wolverhampton, but Tipton. Dudley's a great place. The Dudley Town Hall. It's all great stuff and great audiences to play comedy to.
Now, I think probably one of your strangest gigs in Wolverhampton I was at, and actually I hope you don't mind, but I actually repeated some of on Christmas Day, and that's when you read a poem at Molyneux at a carol concert back in 1999, the Molyneux Millennium Carol Concert, and you'd come along there. I think you'd also appeared at a previous carol concert, Memorial for Billy Wright, but I actually shared on Christmas Day you reading this poem alongside one of the Midlands Today presenters, and it was absolutely throwing it down. But you did an amazing job of it all.
Well, it was Rachel Hayhoe Flint who put it all on. Rachel, I loved Rachel to bits.
Me too.
But like whenever she set something up, my grief, it was different. And this carol concert, I was out there, and I think there was something like about 230 people drenched to the bone on a freezing cold night, and I was doing something. Well, you were there, and it was something to do with a Christmas carol or something, and I called it a Rachel Hayhoe Flint stitch up, which it was.
Absolutely, every time. I mean, I was actually running around because I back in the day I did the PA at Molyneux, so I was actually working the event and making sure we held it all together. But the camaraderie on the night, as you say, an absolutely sodden choir, and then 9,000 people in the stands the other side, all warbling along to a few carols, all watching what was going on. A very peculiar evening.
Yes, it was, but it was Rachel Hayhoe Flint. So I did some stuff for her that should go into a book, really. But she was a very, very good friend to me, and hopefully I reciprocated. So whenever we had charities on and she did golf things and cricket things, I always used to turn up, and then she would come over and help me out with different speeches. Wonderful, wonderful lady, great memories.
Yeah, and sadly missed, but it's one of those things. The passage of time gets to us all. However, you're holding it back by behaving just like you're still 27, even though we're not going to go into the numbers again. But I mean, with Alistair as well, it's going to be a great night because his impressionist skills. I mean, when I see him, I'm never entirely sure who I'm looking at because he does sort of morph into who he's doing the voice of.
He does. He's just a natural, and like you'll be talking to him, and like we'd be having a conversation, and then suddenly he'd be doing an impression of you, and he's just got that knack, and of course he's very funny. But one of the problems he's having, of course, again, is with audiences. Young audiences don't know who he's doing because he's doing some sort of Radio 4 weather broadcaster, and nobody under 50 knows who he is. So he has this great deal of difficulty trying to find new voices to do who everybody knows. He's got a real problem on there, but he overcomes it, and it's a delight playing with him. I mean, he's a great guy as well. Very, very much for the environment. Very principled man, but very talented.
I'd expect nothing less to be on tour with you, to be fair. He wouldn't be up on the bill otherwise. But I mean, it's
very kind.
When you got together, I mean, it was a random pairing at a festival, wasn't it? And it sort of snowballed from there, and it gives you a chance to go out and have a shared evening. Who does the first act, though?
Alistair always starts the evening off. He comes on and does about 25, 30 minutes, and then I do the same. And then as an interval, he goes on again, does the same, and I do the same. So it's 2 hours of solid comedy with a 20-minute interval for everybody to go and wet their whistle.
And that's important.
Too right. And the great thing about working with Alistair is he goes out and straight away he gets the audience straight away, and it's wonderful to follow him because all the audience are really, ready and waiting for more comedy. So it's a great combination, and I love working with him. He's, as I say, very, very talented man.
I must ask though. I mean, I mentioned Funky Moped earlier. I mean, is there any chance of a rendition? Can we get this charting again? I mean, it ought to be there for a new generation.
Well, I did do some shows with the band, and I used to end up at the evening doing a Status Quo impression, and I used to get Funky Moped in, and I got it down to 42 seconds. And I say that because it got a great cheer when I started it, but I managed to finish it before people realised just how crap it was. So it was ideal. But you won't get Funky Moped in Wolverhampton this time round.
Stick it on your MP3 player, your phone, or play it on the gramophone before you leave the house. Then you'll be in the right frame of mind.
I know what that is. I know what a gramophone is. Yeah. I might just know what a cassette is, but anything else, I am a whatever they call it, klutz. I have no idea what the modern world is about.
It's safer that way because you can still make fun of it even if you don't understand it, as I'm sure you will. With some new material, some old, an amazing evening with the new old friend Alistair McGowan, an evening shared with Jasper Carrott and Alistair McGowan is at the Grand Theatre 17th through to the 19th of February. 3 nights of mirth, madness, 2 limited availability. Get in there quick if you can for Monday and Tuesday. And Wednesday, take your pick of the seats because that's going to be selling fast. You want to make sure you're there. grandtheatre.co.uk to get your tickets, or 01902 429212 on the old rotary dial telephone if you're one of Jasper's fans who is not actually that adept at the modern technology to get your tickets that way. Jasper, a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you for joining us and have an amazing time on tour.
Yeah, thanks ever so much, Jason. It's been a real help.